People in the Fever were like, y'all.
That's not my point. There's a lot of other going on that players are like, this ain't where I want to be.
Over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some new shit going on around there.
It's a lot. Yeah. So you have players that are very significant on this Indiana Fever team that are like, I don't
want to be here.
This is where I want to be.
When DeWanna Bonner returned to Twitter after a 6-month break, she didn't just casually announce her comeback. She made waves across the WNBA with a powerful statement. Not only did she confirm that she's officially joining the Indiana Fever, but she also shut down the ongoing claims that Caitlin Clark and Fever fans are toxic. That debate? Over.
This WNBA offseason killed a lot of dumbass narratives, right? It really did. And I hope they're gone for good. And I hope we spend so much less time discussing nonsense. But I think we've seen it stamped out this offseason. And one of those narratives was people wouldn't want to go to the Fever because of the Fever fan base.
You might be wondering, isn't this the team everyone claims players are avoiding? Well, Bonner isn't buying into that narrative. She's seen all the talk, especially the comments from Sheryl Swoopes and the non-stop debates online. But instead of staying silent, she spoke up and made it clear the negativity stops here.
All the crazy people on social media calling her every name under the sun because she chose to play in Indiana. These are the same people that are like, oh, she'll never play in Indiana for obvious reasons. And she went and defended the Indiana fans and was like, talking about... She was basically like talking positively about the fans that were interacting with her positively, and was responding to one of the crazy posts about her being like, I'm getting screenshots of things you were saying about me. Can you just stop?
Imagine this. Bonner is relaxing, scrolling through her phone when she sees yet another round of misinformation. Fans questioning her decision to join Indiana. Analysts still pushing the outdated idea that no one wants to play for the Fever. Instead of ignoring it, she decided to respond. And she did it in a big way.
It goes to show you that I think hopefully all that stuff has been put in the rear view. And of course, Bonner is
She didn't just respond. She shut the conversation down with one perfectly worded tweet. Bonner didn't just stand up for herself. She backed Indiana Fever fans completely. Her message was clear. You're passionate, dedicated, and real. That's not toxic. That's true fandom. And with that, the debate was over.
I don't get on here often because this app is insanely too much sometimes. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for all the love I've received so far. Deaf, not unnoticed. The love is...
But Bonner didn't stop there. She called out the double standard. Why is it that when other teams' fans show passion, it's called support, but when Fever fans do the same, it's a problem? And why is it that now, as the Fever start winning and gaining national attention, the criticism suddenly shifts to the fans? Bonner wasn't just defending herself. She was exposing the league-wide bias that's been following Indiana since Caitlin Clark joined.
No argument that the Fever are a great basketball destination. That Caitlin Clark is a great basketball.
This isn't just about fan reactions. It's about respect, something Indiana Fever fans and players have been denied for far too long. And Bonner? She's done letting false narratives slide. What makes her words even more impactful is who she is. Not just another player looking for attention, but a multi-time WNBA champion and one of the most respected veterans in the game. When Bonner speaks, the league listens. This isn't just a social media rant. It's a seasoned star, someone who's seen it all, stepping up to defend her new team and call out the double standards.
The Fever fan base, being painted with this broad brushstroke, was always just stupid, really. There's no other word for it, because Caitlin Clark brought more fans to the league than it's ever seen. So many of them are Fever fans, and the new fans that come in outnumber the old fans that were already there. You don't want to tell those people they're
Fever fans have probably been waiting for that kind of recognition, and Bonner delivered. By joining Indiana, she sent a strong message. The Fever aren't some struggling team trying to stay relevant. With Caitlin Clark leading the charge, they're building something special. They're not just here to compete. They're coming for the league's best. And Bonner? She's not just signing with Indiana. She's all in, ready to be a key part of this new era.
A lot of fans, I think, felt unwelcome as a result of that, because when you look at every sport and every fan base, there are going to be bad apples. With every group of people, There are. And the larger that group becomes, of course, then the larger the small percentage of bad apples are. But if you've ever followed sports, you see people acting stupid online or even live at games.
The best part? Her tweet sparked a huge reaction. Indiana Fever fans are rallying behind her more than ever, and the critics who insisted no one wanted to play for Indiana, suddenly silent. Even Sheryl Swoopes seems to have backed out of the conversation.
It is, if you're good and you're playing well, it's great to be a Fever. If you're playing badly, it is the worst place you can be. And if you're a WNBA player, you've got to be able to handle that. But
what happened, folks? Sheryl Swoopes has gone quiet. Just a few months ago, she had plenty to say about the Indiana Fever, claiming the locker room was toxic, that players didn't want to be there, and that everyone was trying to leave. But now, the critics are scrambling to rewrite history. They'll pretend they never doubted Indiana. They'll act like they never questioned Caitlin Clark's impact. But it's too late. The Fever have already won the battle off the court, and now they're gearing up to win on it too.
Argument that the Fever are a great basketball destination, that Caitlin Clark is a great basketball player, that they have a great fan base. I guess that's ultimately what you're going to see, right? Because so many of those Fever fans, I've seen them, they're the ones watching Unrivaled. They're the ones watching women's college basketball. Others too.
Bonner, Caitlin Clark, and the Fever aren't just building a team, they're reshaping the future of the WNBA. If the rest of the league isn't paying attention yet, they will be soon. You've probably heard the so-called controversy about Indiana Fever fans, the claims that they're too intense, or that players avoid the team because of it. But let's be real, that narrative collapsed fast. And funny enough, it all started with Alyssa Thomas, Bonner's own wife. She was the one who first stirred the pot, saying Fever fans were so unbearable that players didn't want to join Indiana.
Natasha Howard, it was very clear that that potential for stardom, which she never had in her career, no matter how good she's been, outweighed any potential downsides of playing for the Fever. And then for DeWanna Bonner, she had all those connections to Indiana, she had connections to Stephanie White.
Here's the twist. Despite all the talk, star players aren't avoiding the Fever, they're choosing them. Bonner, Natasha Howard, Sophie Cunningham, and Sydney Colson didn't just sign with Indiana, they fully embraced it. And these aren't just role players looking for minutes on a rebuilding team. They're experienced veterans and proven stars. They saw the headlines about the so-called toxic fan base and still said, yeah, that's exactly where I want to be.
People say that Caitlin Clark moves the needle. That is wrong. She is the needle. She dictates. We all know what she's done on the floor. It's history, right? But off the floor,
Let's talk facts, because the numbers don't lie. Indiana Fever fan engagement is through the roof. Arenas are selling out, merchandise is flying off the shelves, and social media buzz is at an all-time high. This isn't a struggling team trying to stay relevant. It's a franchise becoming the heartbeat of the WNBA. And leading the charge, Caitlin Clark. She's not just bringing in new fans, she's turning casual viewers into lifelong supporters.
Like I've said, there's so many pros to playing for the Indiana Fever. The pros being that you get more attention, you get more endorsements, you get a chance to win, you get fans on the road or away, or at home. All these things come to you when you're playing.
Think about how wild this is. Just a few years ago, Indiana was barely part of the WNBA conversation. Now, they're the hottest team in the league. It's like judging a whole restaurant based on one bad Yelp review. It just doesn't add up. Every team has a few bad apples in their fan base. That's just sports. But acting like Fever fans are some kind of exception, that's just reaching. So, what's the real reason people keep attacking Fever fans? Simple, because Indiana is winning. Not just on the court, but in relevance, attention, and influence. They're no longer an afterthought, and that makes some people uncomfortable. Instead of admitting that Fever fans are fueling something special, critics keep pushing this tired claim that players don't want to be there. But at this point, reality speaks for itself.
Regardless, so many players decided they were going to go to the Indiana Fever in the offseason, which was the death knell for a lot of those narratives. They weren't traded. Cunningham was traded there, but Natasha Howard signed with the Indiana Fever. And I think more importantly, DeWanna Bonner signing with the Indiana Fever was representative of that. Sydney Colson as well, of course. But Bonner, because she is, in a relationship with Alyssa Thomas, and Alyssa Thomas had said what she said about fans after the playoff loss, it goes to show you that I think hopefully all that stuff has been put in the rear view. And of course, Bonner is a pro.
Yet the facts tell a different story. If Indiana Fever fans were really as bad as people claim, why are star players eager to sign? Would a multi-time champion like DeWanna Bonner choose to finish her career somewhere she felt unwelcome? Would Natasha Howard, a former Defensive Player of the Year, commit to a team with a toxic culture? The answer is obvious. These players see what the critics refuse to admit. The WNBA is changing, and Indiana is right at the center of it. Just a year ago, people laughed at the idea of the Fever being a top destination. Now, they're scrambling to figure out how it happened so fast. Caitlin Clark isn't just a generational talent. She's a game changer, a sellout powerhouse, and the kind of player who puts a franchise on the map.
Sydney Colson, who was on the Aces, and so many of the Aces fans were always, kind of... And Colson chooses the Indiana Fever. It really does. I do think the BS is behind us, which is just great. And then DeWanna Bonner says, yeah, champion, right? Veteran. I choose to go there, despite what was out there, despite the fact that I played for the Connecticut Sun. And that was as heated as it may get. Dejanay Carrington was on her team, tweeting up a storm after every game. And even Alyssa